Hey guys, this is GamerCow. Welcome to another Duelyst discussion. We actually do have something to discuss now. It is a new balance patch. And, well, this is kind of notable for a few reasons. One, the patches are less frequent now than they used to be, and they actually kind of go into why this is. But mostly, there are a ton of balance changes to this. Everybody except Songhai got at least one thing hit in this balance change, and that's kind of crazy actually. I've been playing Duelyst since the end of October, start of November. I've never seen this many balance changes in one shot. Yeah, I would even say balance changes, because not everything ever has to be a nerf. Sometimes, I think the Spelljammer thing was actually a buff, as an example. Spelljammer used to be a 3 mana 2/4, now it's a 4 mana 3/5, so it comes out a turn later, but the stats are really quite good for something that is so ubiquitous. So, you know, stuff like that kind of isn't always a nerf, even though it looks like it is. So, yeah, tons of cards changed, and the reasoning for this is mostly that they don't want to do too many of these in the future. As you can see with the stuff here, if you've been keeping track of our patch notes, blah blah blah, probably noticed making changes for design space reasons, so trying not to step on the toes of stuff that they're making now, or trying to make stuff not broken with the new tools which are coming out. Probably a good example of that would have been Inner Focus with Calligrapher. Calligrapher being a big minion, but a 7 mana 3/7 rush that gives Songhai 3 spells at the end of the turn when it attacks. Inner Focus with 0 mana synergizes flawlessly with that on the 7 mana turn, and would basically refill their entire hand with just 2 cards. It's kind of insane. And all of those spells could be ridiculously good too, so I can understand why they wouldn't want to keep doing that. At the same time, I'm not convinced this is the absolute right way to approach this, because I still feel, even after this, that there are some things which should have been tuned within this as well, and there are a few of these cards that, well, by a few, I mean maybe 2 or 3 that you would think, well, why haven't they not done this sooner? And we'll go over that as we go through. But yeah, effectively they don't want to ruin the development of new decks and such, and that's fine, but I still feel like they could have been a little bit more proactive with the stuff here, and I hope that they don't just completely stop tuning old cards, because some of the newest expansion needs to get looked at some point. A couple of cards in particular, but that's fine. So yeah, they do say they can maintain, you know, contingent monitor stuff and still have the ability to step in. That's fine, but they don't want to do this. I think Hearthstone did something similar to this from what people have been telling me, and yeah, it's I don't know. But there are a bunch of changes that they've made, so and the main thing I want to do here is go over those, so let's do so. So, Enfeeble. When I saw this card come out, I was just, oh my god. You know, this card was nuts. 3 mana makes everything a 1/1 on the board is just, dude, come on. It's absolutely ridiculous. Vanna was a faction that could fully abuse this too. You could use, I mean I did most of the time, you could use Frostburn as a 5 mana spell to deal 3 damage to everything. Most commonly Blister and Scorn was used with it as a 4 mana, basically 4/4 minion that did 1 damage to everything on board. So at 7 mana you could board clear with Enfeeble, and it was gross and disgusting. And then Mana Death Grip came along as a 1 mana ping card that gave you a mana crystal if you actually killed something with it. So you would Enfeeble, hit 2 of your opponent's minions in your 4 mana turn, and hit a Death Grip, and you would just kill the minion. Like one of them at the very least with that. Probably kill the other one with the general hit or something, and you ramp up as well as killing all the dudes for really cheap. It was very, very gross. I fully expected it to hit 4 mana. I didn't think it was going to hit 5. 5 mana is probably better though, because, I mean, apart from just this card is disgusting. And, you know, the higher up it goes, the better, I think. The other thing with it is that this now stops you combining it with Frostburn, and it makes the board wipe of Enfeeble plus Blister and Scorn a full 9 mana play. Very possible with Vanar's Ramp to do that, but it's an extremely costly investment, right? You can't use a BBS during that turn, you can't use anything else, you're just resetting the board, which is strong, but not completely unbelievably strong. And I still think this card is good, but I don't think it's going to be a free of in pretty much every deck. There were some decks that didn't use it, but they were mostly weird for not using it, you know? Like the Arcanist stuff didn't always use it, but even in my Arcanist decks I still played 2 of these. Don't know if I'm going to do that anymore. Definitely warranted this change, for sure. Shadow Sister Kalino, one of the big problem cards that has been an annoyance ever since I started playing this. This, along with Spectral Revenant, are the main reasons I hate playing against Abyssian. Like, Cassava specifically, but even most of the time Lilith tends to do quite a lot with this as well. 2/5 was just incredibly annoying to deal with, and if you didn't have some sort of ranged dispel, or a way to just kill that 5 health from, you know, a long way away, then it would just generate so much value. It was unbelievable. Really irritating card, and it's still good, but now at 3 health, it's really vulnerable to a lot of stuff. Songhai can just Phoenix Fire it, for example. Lionar could Lasting Judgment. Previously you had to use Circle of Life, a 5 mana, very expensive removal spell to take this thing out. Now you don't have to do that. You can use Lasting Judgment as a 2 mana card to wipe it out. Draining Wave as a 1 mana spell could take this thing out if you really are desperate enough. The free attack is interesting because it makes it trade with 2-drops. Even though you really don't want it to be in a position to trade, it does deter a little bit from actually just going in and trying to kill it outright. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, some people think this is overtuned, like 2-4 or even 1-4 would have been a better stat line to make this still, well, strong, but maybe not quite as overwhelming, because there's a lot of stuff that does 4 damage, but not quite so much that does 5, which is the problem. I'm not too sure. The only thing that's worrying about this is that Cassava, as it currently stands, kind of over-relied on this card to keep them in the game, and that might make it difficult to still play Cassava, at the very least in the way that she is currently played. So that could be good or bad. It really depends on how that gets supported in the future sets. We'll have to see. But right now, yeah, Cassava's going to be hurting quite a lot from this. We'll just have to see how it ends up panning out. Thumping Wave, one of the most hated cards of the game at the moment. 3 mana was crazy for this effect. So, this effect was weird because the +5 attack part and the 3/3 transformation part are individually done much better by singular cards in different factions. The +5 attack is a 3 mana card from Abyssian, believe it or not, Shadow Reflection I think it's called, where you get a permanent +5 attack buff to one of your minions. The other thing is a 3/3, although this is a battle pet that it transforms into, so it's a little bit different, but Aspect to the Fox at 1 mana turns any minion into a 3/3 Fox Ravager. So that's cheaper and more immediate than this, so you know, kind of funny how that works out. But most of the time this was used with Saberspine Tiger or Mercantile Warbeast, or sometimes Elucidator, to generate absolutely insane burst out of hand. Like Elucidator plus this was a 10 damage swing for 7 mana. Kind of obnoxious. Now, like, it still has the variety effect, which is good, but at 4 mana it makes it a little bit harder to combo it with the rush stuff, which is mostly why it has been nerfed here. It's still a decent enough removal, although it should be noted that it is not immediate, and Starhorn actually has a hard time using this because Starhorn can't actually kill the 3-3. Kind of need some other stuff for Starhorn to kill it, so you won't really see that come into play, but it's still good. Like, you can still remove stuff with this, and it still gives burst, it just takes an extra turn. You can't use this with Mercantile Warbeast anymore unless you use Flash Reincarnation, which also got a small hit that we'll see in a minute, so yeah, it's a necessary change. I think a lot of people expected this, but we'll see how it actually works out. I don't think it's going to kill the card, not in the slightest. I'm still going to play it, but it's going to be noticeably weaker at this point, I think, which is good because the card was too strong as is. Speaking of Flash Reincarnation, didn't get any mana changes or anything like that, but what it did get is the inability to stack. So with the way that this card used to work, you could play 2 of these in a row, and you would then be able to summon a minion for 4 less mana, and it takes 4 damage upon coming in. Sounds bad, but this became a problem because of Juggernaut, mostly. Also a couple other things, like Silphar Elder was still really good even if you double flashed it. Other stuff, not so much. There's not really a lot of other things that would survive that sort of punishment, but those 2 in particular were still very strong if you did this to them, so that's kind of a problem. But Juggernaut actually spawns Golem eggs based on how much damage it takes. So you would double flash it out, it would take 4 damage, be a 4-cost minion, so you could bring it out on turn 2 if you're going second, and you would get 4 eggs, which the opponent would basically have no way of dealing with. It was really obnoxious. Like, really obnoxious. So, with this new change, you're not allowed to do that, which is good. Because I've won a few games with the double or even triple Flash Reincarnation and pulled it out turn 1, and it's gross as all hell. Like, just there's nothing that the opponent can do with it, and it's just disgusting. So this is a good change, if for no other reason than it prevents the jank from really just messing everything up. So happy enough with that. Also happy to see this one, although maybe it's a bit of an overtune. We'll see if they make up for it in the next expansion with more egg support. Chrysalis Burst, one of my least favourite cards out of Magmar, only because of the RNG aspect of this. If you had something like Blistering Scorn, then you would immediately answer this and nothing would happen, and the opponent would probably just lose because they spent their 4 mana turns bringing this out, and you just insta-counter it with something too good for them to deal with. If it went unanswered, then it generally won the game by summoning 2 crazy value minions that you had no way of dealing with. Stupidly annoying card. At 6 mana, this is completely unplayable. At least with the current egg support and such we've got, this is completely unusable at 6 mana, and I could not be happier for that fact, because losing to this card is just super disgusting. It's... ugh. I cannot explain how much I hate this card. That said, there is an artifact, Morinker, that is a 5 mana one, gives you a general +3 attack, and when the general attacks, it hatches all eggs that you have on board. So if you still wanted to play this, you could play it on curve by having 5 mana Morinker, 6 mana Chrysalis Burst, and attack something. That could still happen, and that could be interesting, but it is super meme tier and nothing else at this point. Thank God. Way too random, just way too bleh. And then you get to a change which is really weird. Windblade Adept is basically the first minion that you get in the game, because the first general you'll typically play is Lionar. It's the first one in the list, and it's a very basic, straightforward thing. Windblade Adept is, yeah, pretty much the first minion you're likely to summon Unless you go in second and you summon Silverguard, but details, right? It used to be a 4-3 when it was next to your general. Now it is a 3-3. They've tuned down the Zeal effect, which, I don't know. I can understand why, because, as they go on to say here, it's a widely played minion with no equal. In pretty much every Lionar deck, even the Ziran ones, there's no real decision not to play this card as a 4-3, because it is just that strong. 4-3 trades with a lot of 3-drops as well as every 2-drop, and that's beefy. That's really beefy. As a 3-3, it still trades with most 2-drops, notably not with Celebrant, but it does trade with most 2-drops still, and that's still pretty strong, but it's definitely not an auto-include anymore. I would probably take Azurite Lion over this at this point. In Argeon, at the very least, I would take Azurite Lion if I had to choose between the two, and maybe we'll see more 2-drops in the next expansion that will also compete with this now, whereas before, like when Warblade was introduced, the golem in the recent expansion, I was like, this is good, but where do I fit it in? Because I can't put Windblade Adept and Azurite Lion and Golem Metallurgist and probably Celebrant to get the bond effect and Warblade in. Like, there's just no space for that many 2-drops. Now I could feasibly drop the Windblade and still be okay. So I don't know. It's an interesting change. I definitely didn't see it coming, but might offer some more variety in the low drops at the very least. Then you get another change that's kind of weird. Grandmaster Noshrak used to be a 7 mana card, now it is 8 mana. It's been given 1 more health to compensate for that. Yeah, it's interesting. I can understand. So the reasoning is that they basically couldn't add more finisher cards or high impact minions to Vitruvian, especially at the later costs. So probably thinking 6 mana here, where they can't really add more to it, because if they did, then this card would just come down next turn and just obliterate everything, right? Or obliterate the general one shot more than anything else. Which, yeah, it kind of makes sense. Not sure if that's really justification for it, but it does at least make sense that it's difficult to give more strong late game stuff when you have something like this that on 7 mana just destroys the world, you know? Because what Vitruvian excels at more than anything is swarming a big board. Especially with stuff like Sirocco now, that you can summon a whole bazillion tons of Skyrock Golems and whatnot. You can generate a lot of damage on board. With that, or with the Obelisk version using Whispers of the Sand, you can make a ton of dervishes that can attack in that turn. Very, very strong effect, and when you double damage to the enemy general, you're suddenly turning that potentially good 6 to 8 burst damage into 12 to 16. And yeah, adding more higher tap power cards and stuff on top of that would be really difficult to do, and I guess I understand that. Still not overly sure, but we'll have to see. I haven't really been using Noshrak anyway, so it won't affect any of the decks that I have built, but I can see some people getting upset with that one. And then we get the last change, the king himself. I hope this card is dead now. I have had some fun playing this, but I've definitely had more, and I imagine I've caused more annoyance than anything playing this. Meltdown, 7 mana 7/7 that did 7 damage to any random enemy when you used your Bloodborne spell. What the fuck? This along with Kalino and Enfeeble are cards that should have been nerfed like 2.5 months ago. Maybe even earlier than that. I mean, in Kalino's case, definitely earlier. This I don't think should have even been released in the original state. This is just ridiculous. But now, the problem is I still don't think it's tuned down enough. But I'm hoping that it is. Or just at the very least, the fact if it's been tuned down like this makes people just not play it. Because, yeah, it's just... nah, it's not a fun card in the traditional sense. If you played Hearthstone and Ragnaros around, you'll know how unfun this type of effect can be. Funnily enough, whenever I used this, I was more hoping to hit the minion than the enemy general, so, you know, I kind of got lucky with this a lot. But yeah, it's 8 mana instead of 7, so in order to actually get an immediate effect out of it, you need to form 9 mana crystals this time, which is fine, because that means you don't get to play anything else in that turn. As strange as it might sound, you can actually play quite a bit with 1 mana, so that is a big difference. And it also comes out 1 turn later, so you know, all of that fun stuff. The 1 stat line decrease, not a problem. The difference between 6 and 7 really is non-existent for almost every card in this game. Most cards that see play don't have more than 7 health, or 6 health, and if they do, then it's stuff like Ironcliff Guardian, which has 10 health and you can't kill it in one shot anyway, so that part doesn't make a difference. And the 6 damage to a random enemy, likewise, it still kills most things that come out, which is what makes me a bit worried. Like, if it did 5 damage to a random enemy, then it would be completely killed. If it was 9 mana, then it would absolutely be killed, and you wouldn't have even needed to debuff the damage and stuff it did, because there's no way that you would have had a playable Bloodborne spell at the same time. Unless you use Sanguinar, but then it has to survive. So, you know, there's not exactly any way that a 9 mana Meltdown would ever see play. As it stands, I think it might just about still be playable in Fae, and that worries me. I'll have to see. But yeah, that's pretty much it. There's more story stuff. I haven't actually looked at this yet. I'm gonna look at it in a minute. But yeah, there's some more story stuff. These things are all voice acted as well, which I think is kind of cool because I like the voice for it, so it's fine. And then there's a few bug fix stuff, maybe fixing the roping issue at the end of the turn. Boulder Breacher was kind of getting a bit buggy, so hopefully that is now fully fixed. And yeah, there's more iOS stuff that, yeah, it's basically getting ported to mobile, and it's getting there, so that's fine. And yeah, there'll be more expansions, blah 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 blah. So yeah, there's a lot of changes here. I don't know if it's going to affect the absolute highest decks at the moment, though. It will definitely stop Disruption Fae from being the top tier deck, I think. But that just leaves Arcanist Fae probably in a better spot than it was. So I don't know if Fae is going anywhere, and I honestly don't think Magmar is going anywhere either. The Chrysalis Bursting doesn't affect the main mid-range Magmar stuff, or VAF stuff at all. The Flash Reincarnation stuff maybe slightly affects them, but not really, because most of the time you're only using one Flash Incarnation at a time anyway. It's mostly the slower Juggernaut decks that did double Flash, and they aren't the top tier ones, so we'll see on that. And then Thumping Wave is a bit of a hit, but I don't think that's going to stop them too much. The only thing that stops is Thumping Mercantor, which is a pretty good thing to stop, but Elucidator does exist, and that will probably get a little bit more common without having the ability to use Mercantor with Thumping Wave. So the sheer fact of Lava Slasher didn't get hit, and Mana Death Grip Circulus didn't get hit. Those are the core cards which have made VAF and Fae top of the meta right now. And yeah, this patch did nothing to those, so I can imagine those two still being top of the meta. We'll have to see though. Vitruvian might get a little bit better now that Enfeeble doesn't kill their board every time. That's one possibility. And Lionar might see a bit more play with the nerf to Thumping Wave here. and Enfeeble not killing their entire board all the time as well. This change cannot be understated. Like, this is huge. So we'll see. Maybe this will be enough. I hope so. Anyway, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to go over the card changes here, and yeah, what do you guys think? Is there anything you're particularly excited for out of all of this? Anything you want to dispute? Maybe I'm completely off base about the top tier decks and you want to tell me why? That's what the comments are for. Till next time, this has been GamerCat. Thank you very much for listening on, and I will talk to you guys later.